Welcome to this webinar on using ClickLearn to keep your IFS solution evergreen. I'm Joachim Schiermacher. I'm the CEO of ClickLearn, and I have the privilege of presenting for you today. So one of the things that most of you maybe know ClickLearn for is our digital adoption and training solution. And you might ask, how is that in any way keeping us evergreen on IFS technology? Well, the answer is that recently we set out on a mission to see if we could change the way that people are testing their updates on software. And this is what I'm going to take you through, the journey towards that target and the end result. We're going to do a follow-up session on this where I'm inviting in our CTO, Mike Olsen, to also present with me and give you some more in-depth detail and give you a view inside the hood of the car and give some technical guidance towards how do you actually do this inside the application. As I said, that some of you may be familiar with our name. We are an IFS Technology Alliance partner. That means that we are one puzzle inside the entire IFS organization that solves a particular pain around how do you provide training to the end users when you're switching from any ERP towards an IFS platform. We are Global Software Partner of the Year for 5 consecutive years. One of them, we were the Innovative Partner of Americas, but basically we are awarded towards our excellence with delivering this proposition inside IFS. Today we have around 350 clients that are running on apps, cloud, FSM, maintenance. So basically we have a clear strategy that we are going to serve anything purple and make sure that our software supports that journey that IFS is taking. We have offices in Denmark, US, Australia, and India, but that doesn't mean that we're not serving clients outside of those regions. We are. We have engagements in Africa, Middle East, and daily we are supporting our clients and making sure that they become more effective with their IFS solutions. So let me see if I can take you through some of the current trends, and you're probably going to find this familiar because it's going to look a little bit like your own applications landscape. But basically, you can divide businesses into large enterprises and small enterprises. We've done that here. And we've set the mark for around 2,000 employees. So if we look at the averages, and this is documented by surveys, a large enterprise has on average 175 applications deployed inside their infrastructure. And this ranges, of course, from anything from Microsoft Word on one side to a strategic component in your business like IFS or IFS Cloud. But that has taken a big surge. Now, this is probably driven by the idea that we no longer rely on monolithic system thinking. We don't, purchase a single piece of software and expect that to cover all categories of our business. But we are going into a best-of-breed type of application deployment scenario. So, to a large degree, most businesses today are selecting the application that best serves their purpose, deploying that within the infrastructure, and not relying on a single contractor delivering everything. There's another tendency in the market that we are also seeing, that software vendors really need you to be evergreen. And IFS is obviously on that wagon as well, which is a great idea for most businesses, because it basically means that you'll be assured that you're running on the latest technology, which is fantastic, given the latest opportunities. You'll also be less vulnerable towards security breaches in your organization by making sure that you keep up with your vendor updates. At the same time, the software vendors are also increasing on the number of updates they're delivering, and there's a really business purpose towards that as well. We can see that vendors are very interested in keeping you up to date, not just for the promise that you'll do better in your business, but because there's money there to be had. The idea is obviously that as we are switching into subscription models, we're also becoming vulnerable to not delivering value on a day-to-day basis, because basically you're on a subscription model that you can terminate at any point in time. And that also means that from a vendor perspective, they need to make sure that they deliver value often. So number of updates are going up in that direction. The second thing is that when you look at a customer on a non-updated or not current business system, that also creates a liability and a competitive liability that you're really vulnerable towards competitive attacks. And obviously, if you're looking at two vendors with more or less the same proposition, one is demoing their technology on completely updated software, you're running on outdated software, and comparing those two, there's a winner, and it's coming out every time. So in order to stay ahead of the competition, they need you to be evergreen as well. Now, one of the problems with an evergreen system and beating up the amount of applications that you have inside your organization, and obviously also beating up on the release cycle of annual updates, that is that the test cycles and your security for making sure that all your vital and critical business processes are working after a new update, that becomes kind of a task now. So if you imagine that you have 6 to 10 critical systems out of the 175 applications that you've deployed, you have 4 annual updates, that comes to between 24 and 40 test and update cycles that you're going to have to go through. And although most vendors, including IFS, provide you with an ability to test the deployment in an isolated environment, they do not necessarily provide you with the tools and technology that will improve on performance in that test. So the test is still put on your sneakers, get running, while at the other hand, they're obviously giving you the technology to get running on. Now, one of the things that we could see was that most of the technology necessary for creating a test suite we actually had inside our application. I'm going to try and take you a little bit through that in a couple of minutes. But when we are looking at the entire perspective of creating an automated test platform for IFS, we obviously also looked at where do we actually store all our business processes inside the business. So the two challenges I'll be covering today are how do you effectively test your key process for an update, and how do you keep your training and performance support material current on the latest release. So it's not just a question of how you test, but it's also a question of how do you make sure that you actually still drive the performance with your individual users. So let me take you through these topics. So when we look at where your work instructions described, you probably will see that you have multiple variants of your work instructions basically scattered around the business. So quality assurance systems, you probably have that in place, meaning that you have a place where you describe your processes for any quality assurance program that you're engaged with. You probably have some sort of business model repositories, think something like IFS scope tool, modeling tools, that kind of thing, where you also have a representation of your work instructions. And then there are the departmental micro platforms, and basically every department will search in and try and deliver on the proposition that they need work instructions for their individual employees. And that means that if they don't see that delivered in a corporate structure, they will obviously create micro platforms for that type of deployment. And possibly when you did your initial training, one of the foundations for that training was obviously a description of the work processes, because otherwise it would be technically impossible to train anyone. And then that third tier that we're representing now, as if we don't have enough representations of our business processes, now there's a technical testing solution that we're bringing on top of everything in order to make sure that you can actually run 24 to 40 cycles annually. And that obviously just becomes another part of the problem. So what people are mostly doing is that, just going to try and fast forward here. So one of the things that most people are doing is that they're taking one system and delivering into the next. What we are trying to accomplish with our solution is basically say, look, take a single repository where it's closest to the system and use that as the single point of truth and deliver that into all the other systems. And I think that ClickLearn has all the building blocks in order to be that type of solution. I'll show you why and how we've created that particular solution. All right, so when we initiated this mission of making sure that we could create an automated test platform, we basically looked at what are the key components that we need in order to be able to do that. So we obviously need world-class recording experience to make sure that you're not doing what you're doing in every other test platform. That means that you're coding. Because we know that that's a scarce resource inside your organization, and we know that we'll just be adding to the pain. And we actually have that recording technology, and many of the IFS customers are using that today to record their entire training portfolio. So basically taking our recording technology and leaving that as the foundation for your work processes. And when you do a work process with any recording technology, there's a separation of data and function. Now, the idea here is that imagine that you go into an IFS system, you want to create an order, or you want to select an order from somewhere and do something with it. Now, the idea is that some of what you're doing on the screen will be simple actions, like the navigation part where you get into a menu structure. And some of it will actually be data driven. And that means that when you select a particular order, we want to make sure that we understand that that's actually data you're working on. And that's the separation between data and function. Why is that important? Well, if you're looking at a test system, you probably don't want to test with order number 10,000 every time you're doing your test. You probably want to have the ability to do multiple tests on different orders. And the idea is we need that separation in order to make sure that we are capable of delivering a data function for you. Now then obviously we need a pre-deployment environment, and the pre-deployment environment is there from IFS, and that means that you actually have the ability to create a staging environment where you deploy any update coming from IFS before you actually take it live. And that is the ground where you will do your automated testing on. Then we have one thing that's really necessary. One thing is that you can record an entire business process, but you need to be able to take that business process and replay it back on the same system with that change of data and make that interchangeable. And we actually have that capability because we are the only training solution in the industry that can actually, take your training collateral and then you can replay that back on a new changed system, and then we can update the entire content for you. So when we looked at this picture, we said, we have all of the building blocks. The question is, how do we tie them together? And the one thing we did was we put a completely new user experience on top of that, knowing that the driver for this will be how effectively can you tap in your data, and how effectively can you reuse what you did for your onboarding purposes inside an automated process testing. So you did basically all of the recordings when you did your onboarding. Now take those recordings and bring them into an automated process testing environment and allow you to actually execute an entire test with your selection of data directly from within that interface. And that's exactly what we built. So in essence, you can use existing work instructions as the basis for the completely automated test experience, and you can do that before you deploy an update. So we can assure that every vital piece of your business will be running after you apply the update in your live environment. Then we need to deliver objective evidence that, the quality of the applied update. And that basically means that we need to be able to give you a report that clearly states what is running and what is failing. And we have that technology available for you. We can actually show you the entire screenshot of where did this operation go wrong. So you can take that out for manual testing. Go back and find out if you need to change the work process behind this in order to make it work, or whatever else needs to be done. And the great thing is that in one go, you get the update of your central work instructions inside the training repository, as well as the fully automated test. So, really short, you want to be able to obviously define multiple test scenarios that are critical to your business that you want to do before any update. You want to use that existing recording technology that we already did, and the existing recording repository that you've created for your training purposes as the foundation for running that test. then probably most of your processes are not starting and ending inside IFS. So you have a multitude of applications that you need to test in one go and in one single process. So we'll cover that. So our technology, recording-wise and replay-wise, is both cross-platform and cross-application ready. And that means that whether your process only goes inside IFS or whether it takes you from IFS inside a new web application, inside Microsoft Excel back into IFS, it doesn't really matter. We can take that entire journey and make sure that it's reproducible for the testing scenario. Then we want a very, very simple interface for maintaining all of the test values that you're bringing into the game. And we created that with the APT. And then, of course, testing also implies that there are new rules to the game. We are not just running training material, and that means that variable support, calling web APIs, error conditions, testing whether the operation went well, all of that we built into the process. So basically we created all the roundabouts of the entire test suite and make sure that they're available for you. And once you're done with defining your testing scenarios, those are replicable on any of the updates that you'll receive from IFS. And you can now align those multiple testing scenarios, create one big go, and hit the execute button on your staging environment. And we will report any errors that occurs during that testing process. Right. So we are available to help you on your journey towards automating that experience. We are not just serving the IFS platform, we're also serving the remainder of your 174 platforms that you also want to do exactly the same thing for. We strongly encourage you to book a demo with us. Give us a chance to demonstrate how we do this in a live session and discuss your projects and see how we can help. And then, of course, we're going to be doing more webinar series on this. Next time, we'll do a more tech dive into how does this actually work under the hood. So watch out for the webinars that are upcoming on our webpage as well. And I encourage you to stay on particularly the one around our automated process testing. That's called Maintain a Digital Twin for your IFS upgrades. Needless to say that we have a free trial, we have free training involved in that, so we have an entire team that's ready to serve you in making sure that you're successful during your trial as well. So feel free to reach out and request a trial, and we'll be happy to help you as well. I hope you have enjoyed this short session. I look forward to giving you a view inside the application as well, but I appreciate your time today. Thank you.